Hello everybody and welcome to another reaction video. Now today we're going to be revisiting a band called Kull. I reacted to them not so long ago on a track called Vow of the Exiled, which is one of the tracks off their album which is coming out within the next few months. I can't remember exactly when it is. For those who didn't see that last video, Kull is made up of members from Balsagoth and another band called Discafia, I believe it was. Now, Balsagoth is a band that I have listened to for a long time. I am a big fan of their music, and I really enjoyed Vow of the Exiled. I thought it was a fantastic track, and the members of the band saw this video. They were quite happy with the fact, they were quite happy with my reaction to it and my interpretation of it. And as such, their record company got into contact with me and asked me to do a reaction to their newest track, Set Nakt Heh, which actually comes before Vow of the Exiled on the album, because I was actually lucky enough to be able to get to listen to the album in its entirety, but it was an unmastered version, so it wasn't quite a finished version of the album, but I was allowed to hear the album in its entirety, and I must say it is a f***ing good album. But anyway, yeah, this track, Set Nakt Heh, is actually the second track on the album. Vow of the Exiled, I believe, is the third track, so this track actually comes before the one I've already done. Now, when I did Vow of the Exiled, there was a story written within the lyrics, and the band have obviously written this amazing story for this album, but I don't know whether each track is an individual story or if it all culminates into one big story, because I haven't had lyrics for the whole album. The only lyrics I actually had were for Vow of the Exiled. I actually contacted the band myself and asked them if they could send me a copy of the lyrics for this track, which they very generously did, and I cannot thank them enough, because we all know how much I like to read through the lyrics and discuss them. Now, as with Vow of the Exiled, there is actually some text at the beginning of this, which sort of outlines the story of the track, and it goes as follows. Shadows dance on rough walls, deep beneath a towering moon-painted edifice. Far below the ancient and labyrinthine halls of the clerical council, the clandestine band gather under the baleful gaze of the fulcrum upon which the destiny of the kingdom teeters. Leriak's eyes glitter with the reflected light of the flames, and a deeper excitement perceiving the culmination of machinations so painstaking in preparation and set in motion so very long ago, though still but the first precarious steps on a long and arduous path. This night a flame would be lit that would illuminate the path to godhood. Now, from what I've read there, it doesn't sound directly like there's a link between this track and Vow of the Exiled. However, there is a line there which says, perceiving the culmination of machinations so painstaking in preparation and set in motion so very long ago. Now, Vow of the Exiled was about a principality, sort of city, what have you, that was under siege and attack by an invading army. Now, is this track talking about the army that is going to attack that principality? Is this talking about the fact that the preparations that they made before attacking the principality of the other track? I don't know. So I'll be very interested to find it out. Now, I really enjoyed Vow of the Exiled, so I've got really high hopes for this. So I'm very interested to see where it's going. Now, I've blathered on for nearly 5 minutes, so I think we'll get to the song now, and we'll see what it's like and see what we can discern from the story. So, Set Nakt Heh from Kull. Let's go. it's a great track, and this track, when I first listened to Vow of the Exiled, I noted that there really wasn't much of a much of a trace of Balsagoth within the music, but this track has a lot more. It's more. There's definite notes in this. There's definite parts in this that make it very noticeable that members of Balsagoth are involved. There's just a certain style in the music which really comes forward. Now, with this track, as like with Vow of the Exiled, the song is the song is almost split up into chapters, as it were. So it opens with the line. It says, "Voice." Well, not the line. This is the heading. "Voice of the Vault in Immemorial." Right, and it opens saying, "Sputtering braziers shear through silence with incising sibilants, heralds to the arrival of." So this seems to be suggesting, like a sort of clandestine meeting, maybe in a like deep dark cave, and there's like torches and stuff where people are gathering. And then it goes, "Invocations of the Great Serpent," which is the heading for the next bit, which is where they start chanting the name Set Nakt, Set Heh, Set Nakt Heh. And they chant that a few times. So Set Nakt Heh appears to be a serpentine. It's either a demon or a demigod or something like that. It's something that they're summoning and invoking to possibly help them with a future attack or something like that. I'm not sure. And then the next heading is Leriak's Supplication. Now, Leriak was the guy that was mentioned in the pretext, who is obviously the head of this operation, the guy who's put all these plans into place and who's, planning this. And he says, "The slithering shadow, the god of the void, reveal to us your mysteries and accept this vessel of flesh purloined. A benighted assault from star-spawned temple, and whose light shall be smothered in scaly snares of invertebrate might." Now, they're obviously talking about this god. This god is obviously like a snake, basically. It's a snake god. And they're basically summoning it and then saying, "Look, please show us the way, what to do. Show us your power. Show us how great you are, so that we might, so that you might be able to help us achieve our goal, and we can appease you in whatever way you deem necessary." It goes, "Plaintive cry of the dejected damned, who at the yawning void of the black abyss stands, and upon whose lips a lie forlorn, but whose flesh shall rise again as a god reborn." Then it goes, "Set Nakt Heh." Now, there are a couple of sort of text inserts there which aren't actually sung in the song, but it highlights the meaning of, well, not necessarily the meaning, it sort of highlights the next part of the song. So where it says, "The plaintive cry from dejected damned, who at the yawning void of the black abyss stands, and upon whose lips a lie forlorn," and then there comes a bit of text. It says, "For a final utterance that she hopes may save her soul, which to the darkness is already inexorably condemned," and then it goes, "but whose flesh shall rise again as a god reborn." So is it possible that this what's her name? Is this Leriak possibly a female? I'm not sure. But it sounds like, they've summoned this demon so that this, or demon god, whatever it is, this Set Nakt Heh, is it, that this beast might, like, decimate lands, principalities, for example, like in the other track I listened to, and that will raise this Leriak or whoever it is to a godlike status. It'll make them immortal. It'll make them the ultimate power. Not sure. It seems to be almost like selling your soul to the devil to become, powerful. And then there's the next heading, musings on a sacrificial offering, because earlier, this is something I actually forgot to talk about. In earlier part where it says Lyriac's supplication, there is the couple of lines, accept this vessel of flesh purloined. So that to me, it sounds like offering up a sacrifice, accept this vessel of flesh purloined. They've stolen a body, they've kidnapped someone and are using them as a sacrifice, possibly. And it goes, musings on the sacrificial offering, which is the heading. It says, painstaking engraving of unicursal forms etched, delicate and deeply incised into flesh, quaking and shaking, horripulated, I'm not even sure that's a real word, but we'll find out, and bound, as red rivulets now run, her damned cries resound. So it sounds like the this sacrifice, as it were, is possibly a woman. It could possibly be the virgin sacrifice that seems to be very popular within these sort of stories. Now, it says painstaking engravings in unicursal forms etched delicately and deeply incised into flesh. So obviously this sacrifice that they're making, I mean, the sacrifice itself might be the person who wants to become a god. Maybe they have to sacrifice themselves to this demon in order to become a god. I'm not sure. So they've obviously had signs, symbols, possibly like a different language, like maybe a demonic language or a divine language carved into their skin as a sort of ritual, sort of like these words, these things I've carved into myself will protect me and they will help to raise me to this godlike status. Yeah. It's an interesting story. I love the fact that, these songs have got stories to them. I like songs with deep meanings, but I love songs that have got original ideas as well. And this is a great track. It's really enjoyable. We shall carry on. we go. Another one of those tracks with a very sudden stop, and I love it when they do that, especially when they do it on a high note, like the last line there, earth shall fall as ye arise, and boom, arise, that's the end of the track. Fantastic. It's a really enjoyable track, and like I said, there's definitely more of a Balsagoth influence in this track, especially since when we came back in, there was a bit that was spoken, and it was very reminiscent of something from a Balsagoth album, and it was brilliant. And again, the heading, it said the Vault Immemorial, so this is obviously the place where they're doing this ritual to summon Set Nakt Heh, or whatever. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that right, but anyway. And it said, cast into darkness as life's tremulous grip slips hold. Prone and disrobed form both soul and flesh to ancient evil sold. Still thy beating heart and quaking breast and grant our Dark Lord vile ingress. Feel the slow slip from cursed existence, and let the abyss embrace with soft and beguiling caress. Now earlier it said the path to godhood. To me this sounds more like, it's not so much a god, you know, it might be revered as a god, but it sounds more like an evil god, more like a devil, as it were, considering they use the word Dark Lord. What's going on? I just pressed a random button. Anyway, so it says, cast into darkness as life's tremulous grip slips hold. So cast into, you know, that obviously cast into darkness as life's tremulous grip slips hold sounds like they're dying, basically. Prone and disrobed form both soul and flesh to ancient evil sold. So prone and disrobed, so like they're laid out in a sacrificial manner, completely buck naked. So they're completely, you know, there's nothing they can do. They've got no protection. They are being devoured by this ancient evil, as you know, and they have been given to the ancient evil, and he's taken it. He's like, that's mine, I'm having it. It says, still thy beating heart and quaking breast, and grant our Dark Lord vile ingress. Now, my English is English. I can't even say English. So still thy beating heart and quaking breast. You know, so it's like, just let go and let yourself be taken. Give yourself to this Dark Lord, and, you know, give him or her passage into our realm. Feel the slow slip from cursed existence, and let the abyss embrace with soft and beguiling caress. So it's like, let yourself go. Feel yourself like passing from this earthly plane to the, like, whether it be Valhalla or, you know, one of these other planes of existence. Let the abyss embrace you. So, you know, let the darkness swallow you. Embrace it. You know, just let it happen. Don't fight it. And then it says, Leriak's Invocation. The flick of thy tongue shall be the command, the whip of thy tail writ unquestioned, an erring devotion at the mere brush of thy breath, and the touch of thy venom shall send scores to their death. So, this Leriak seems to be wanting to, it's almost like they've taken control of Set Nakt Heh. They're using it, you know, it's like they can summon them at will and use them in combat to decimate their foe. You know, the flick of thy tongue shall be the command, you know, so, you know, the whip of thy tail writ unquestioned. So, like, I will possibly say, I want you to do this, and you will do it. There will be no questions. That's the end of it, and whoever's on the receiving end, they're in for it. There's nothing they can do. Said, unerring devotion at the mere brush of thy breath. So it's like, they will either bend the knee to you and follow you, or they will die, essentially. That's what it seems like. And the touch of thy venom shall send scores to their death. So it's basically like this demon, or whatever it is all-consuming. It will destroy you. It will destroy millions unless they, surrender themselves. Awaken now, from torment rise, in black shadow to ensnare the skies. Arise ye now from slumber, entwined the earth shall fall as ye arise. So, this person, this Leriak, is summoning this Nakt Heh as a demon. They want to conquer the world. They want to take over. They want to be, essentially, king of the world, and they're using Nakt Heh as their weapon. It's like ancient arts demons. It's basically like these amazing fantasy stories of, and it is brilliantly written. I love the fact that they have written this amazing track with an amazing story behind it, and it's so enjoyable and it's so original, and the music that goes with it is phenomenal. And they've mixed up the vocal styles in the track, which makes it again really enjoyable. As I've said many times before, I love it when bands mix up vocal styles, and they've got that spoken bit there in the middle, the deep voice sort of almost narrating what's happening. It's fantastic. It's so enjoyable, and I really love this track. I actually really miss listening to Balsagoth. I haven't actually listened to Balsagoth in a while. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it, and because their music was so grand, and this track was grand. It had that feel behind it. The music was great. It had that really sort of awesome feel behind it. Random moth floating around in the periphery of my vision. Anyway, and it's such enjoyable music to me. I find this sort of music utterly, it's so enjoyable because there's a certain feel to it which sort of pulls you away into a fantasy world. It's like reading a book, but you're just listening to it rather than actually reading it. It's fascinating, and it is such an enjoyable track. And like I said, I've actually had the good fortune to be able to hear the album in its raw state before it was mastered, and it was amazing. It was a really, really good track, and there are further tracks in the album that are more akin to Balsagoth's music than Vow of the Exile, because I did say with Vow of the Exile there wasn't really much trace of Balsagoth in there, but there were certain distinguishing features. But this one has got a lot more of it, and there are other tracks on the album which also have more of a Balsagoth influence to it. And that's something I loved about Balsagoth, is the fact that they invoked this imagery in your mind. When you listen to it, you could almost picture the fantasy setting that they were talking about. It's like playing like Dungeons and Dragons or something, just your vivid imagination, you're imagining the scenarios that are going on. It's fascinating. Really, really good. I absolutely love the track. It's really, really good. But I think I'm going to stop gushing about it now. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or you can message me on my Facebook or Instagram. The links for those are in the description below. Just do know that if you suggest a track, it will take me a while to get around to it, because I get suggested dozens and dozens of tracks every single day, and my list grows faster than I can record the videos. And rest assured, I write down every single suggestion I get given, but it will take me a while to get around to it, but it will be done. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. They are a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mostly those aimed at people of the alternative subculture, whether you dress in alternative fashion or listen to alternative music. I mean, whilst they want to put an end to all hate crimes, essentially, but their main focus is the ones that affect the alternative subculture, since that is how the Foundation came into being. If you don't know the story of Sophie Lancaster, it's well worth looking up, because it is a horribly tragic story, and it really will open your eyes to the way that people behave when they see something they don't understand. Because it's like, nobody has the right to tell you who to be, how to dress, what music to listen to, you know, because the way you live your life, as long as it's within the confines of the law, it doesn't affect anybody, really, unless you're walking down the street shoving it in people's faces. It makes no difference, you know. They're just attacking people for being different just because it doesn't fit into what they consider to be normal, and it's unacceptable, you know. If you were to walk down the street and punch someone in the face just because they like chocolate ice cream and you don't, it's about the same level as logic as that. You know, it makes no sense. You cannot justify attacking someone verbally or physically just because they like something different to you. If we all liked the same thing, the world would be an insanely boring place. The whole world would be beige. We'd all be listening to the same crappy music. We'd all be watching the same crappy movies. Nothing new or interesting would ever come out, because there wouldn't be any need for it. You know, everybody has the right to be an individual, and nobody has the right to tell you otherwise. And it's something I think is very, very important, because, you know, all these other hate crimes like racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, you know, these things, they get mentioned almost on a daily basis. But people getting attacked just because of the way they dress and the music that they listen to, it doesn't get enough recognition, and it's something that needs to get more recognition, and it's something that needs to stop, because it's unacceptable. And, you know, when people start losing their lives because they like different music to everybody else, you know, it's ridiculous, it's unacceptable, and it needs to have an end put to it. So if you want to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their actual goal is, because they can explain it so much better than I can without waffling on randomly. And you know, if you can help them in any way, you know, even if it's something as simple as one of these Sophie bracelets, I think they're like £1 on their web store, you know, the smallest amount helps and is greatly appreciated. So if you can help in any way, that would be fantastic. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.